What's going on, Wiz Nation? What's going on with you guys? Coming back at you guys with another episode of State of the Wizards. Thank you guys for tuning in. This is episode 6. And tonight, what we're going to bring to you guys is we're going to bring to you guys a slew of different things. Right now, it's not much going on in Wizards land. But what is going on right now is football season. And we got other things we can talk about today. We'll cover. And but before we get started, of course, I just want to give a special shout out to all of my followers on Wiz Takes. And thank you guys for continuing to support State of the Wizards. I'm Dcan, along with my co-host.
It's your main man, Kjose, also known as DC Hoopla. Definitely subscribe to my YouTube channel. Follow me on Twitter. Follow me on IG. Definitely want to thank everybody who was following me. And definitely want to say shout out to my Las Vegas Raiders. They're now 2-0, and I'm still taking it 1 week at a time. Anything can change. About a month from now, you might see me with a depressed look. So.
Well, those some big wins, though, man. I mean, y'all beat the Ravens. You beat, you came away with the victory today against the Steelers, 2-0. I mean, those are your first two big games that you got out the way on the schedule. So
Right. And speaking of the Ravens, let me say shout out to them, man. They did a special tribute to I'm about to call him man Omar. That was his character, but Michael K. Williams, who played Omar
rest
on
in
the
peace.
wire when they had him when they was playing him whistling the Farmer and the Dale at the beginning of the game. So that even I'm not a Ravens fan, but that even brought chills up down my spine just by the fact that they did that. It is just very classy from a classy organization. So shout outs to them and rest in peace, Michael K. Williams.
For sure. Rest in peace, Michael K. Williams. So what we're going to touch on first is we're going to talk about Rui and Deni and some of the younger guys on the team, their involvement this season. I know we haven't been able to touch on them and expound on their involvement in past episodes, but we will this episode. We'll also
Okay.
we'll also take a look at some of the broad discussions on some of the chat forums and stuff, and we'll just take a look at what's being discussed, and we'll expound on that as well. We'll give our takes on what some of the NBA news is around the league right now.
Okay.
So anyway, what's your take on Rui and Deni? What do you think their involvement is going to be in the offense and on the team this season?
All right, that's a good question. Let me prep myself for this one. So I would like for them to be heavily involved. I do know that because I'm gonna speak on Denny first, that he's gonna be part of the second unit, and they're looking at him being more of a facilitator and setting up the offense for the second unit. So I guess that means that they don't really feel too confident in how Neto doing that. But with Denny, when you look at his highlights and when you look at how the way he played this season, you can definitely see that he can be a floor general for this team. I think and I know I said this before, I think that's probably the reason why he was getting somewhat of the Luka Doncic comparisons when it comes down to handling the rock, not more so scoring, but more so just being able to handle the rock and get his teammates involved. So I would like to see him start, but I already know that most likely Kyle Kuzma is going to be starting. But Denny definitely has very good court vision. His defense is not as bad as people thought it was. I was kind of concerned about his defense, but look at that play there, that bounce pass that he gave to Bradley vision. So I would like to see more of that this upcoming season. I like to see what other things he's worked on as far as his game offensively so he can be able to contribute. I just want to see how he's going to be used this year. When it comes down to Rui Hachimura, I believe he should be the first option. with Rui Hachimura, his mid-range game is something that this team hasn't seen since maybe Richard Hamilton.
Hmm.
Um, One thing that Rui Hachimura has to work on, I don't think you'll disagree with that, is becoming a better three-point shooter. I mean, I'm not expecting him to shoot 40 something percent, but I think somewhere around between 35 to 37% is pretty doable. Um, Also, too, I would like to see him become a better rebounder, which I think he's very capable of.
Okay.
So it's really those couple of things that Rui has to work on, because one of the things that people was questioning Rui about was his defense. Well, this past season, he proved that he can be a pretty good, solid defender in his league. He's defended some of the better players of the league. He's defended LeBron. He's defended Kawhi. There were times when KD was playing, he defended him. So I would definitely like to see Rui Hachimura be the first option, because when he's involved, he's literally can give you anywhere between 25 to 30 points a game if you get
Agreed.
him involved.
Agreed.
We've seen him get involved. He'll score as high as maybe 12 or 14 points in the first half, and then he's not involved in the second half. And people are saying, well, he needs to be aggressive. Well, how can he be aggressive if his teammates are not giving him the basketball?
Hmm.
If he has the hot hand, you need to feed that hot hand.
Yeah.
And we can go on and on and on about why he's not being fed the ball when he's actually being aggressive.
Yeah.
But I think to say that he needs to be aggressive, with you seeing him when he's aggressive,
Yeah.
if you're not feeding him, then you're going to see him running up and down the court.
So I agree with everything you're saying. Rui is a special player. We have to treat Rui as such, though. We have to think that Rui is a special player.
Right.
If we're going to see Rui, get to that next level, we have to treat these plays like that play right there, where he's able to dribble, dribble in the lane, spin, get to the bucket. You see that left-handed dunk right there in the paint, and he's doing this. A lot of these plays are done based off of someone not calling his number. He's creating these plays for himself.
Right.
Imagine if Rui was the go-to guy,
Exactly.
and he's getting more opportunities. That average goes up. So we're not treating him as such because we're not calling his number. Rui gets his shots and he gets his buckets off of his choices and where he's able to get his buckets. He has to pick his spots as a player.
Mm-hmm.
Again, these aren't plays. All of these plays that you're seeing aren't plays specifically drawn up for Rui. People may beg to differ, but it's the truth. If Rui, like right there, Rui's in the corner, right? But that's just, in my opinion, that's just a smart basketball play where, you're spread out and you're not in the paint. You see the big man there. There's no need for you to be down there. Hey, they're not really calling my number. The way Scott Brooks' offensive system was, hey, just spread the ball around, look for the open guy. And Rui just happened to be in the corner. And I believe that play right there was Thomas Bryant.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Whoever who found him in the corner there. Let's go back to that highlight real quick, just so I can. Yeah, that was Thomas Bryant who made that pass.
Was it Thomas Bryant, or was that Mo Wagner that did it?
No, that's Thomas Bryant right
there.
there.
Okay. I was looking at the other play before that.
Yeah, that's Thomas Bryant. So,
right.
So again, the point I'm making is that Rui has to pick his spots to get his points. Rui's not the go-to guy.
Exactly.
This year, I want Rui to be more of the go-to guy. Okay? I want his involvement to be more, hey, give me the ball, let me go to work, call my number, call my play down the court, let me go to work. That's what I want to see this year out of Rui.
Now, let me ask you this. When do you think you will see those opportunities out of Rui this upcoming season? Of him actually being involved. I think the only time you're going to really see him being involved is when you may have somebody like Deni running the offense if he's running with the second unit, or I had to be honest, if Bradley Beal is not on the court, maybe Spencer Dinwiddie is out there on that court. Maybe Spencer Dinwiddie is feeding the ball. Because one thing that we can say when Russ was here, when Bill wasn't on the floor, Russ would get Rui involved. We just didn't see it as much when Bradley Beal was out there.
Mm-hmm.
So what I would like to see, and I agree with you, I would like to see Rui be more aggressive and as far as commanding the ball being handed to him.
Yeah.
We know that Rui is not going to try to step on anybody's toes, but I believe at this point, he's earned the right to ask for the basketball. We've seen it. When he's involved, he's a walking bucket.
But you know what comes with that? Confidence.
Right.
Someone saying, hey, Rui, I believe you can do this.
I agree.
The fan base, we don't really demand that out of Rui.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine if that was something that the fans asked more of.
Right.
You know, one thing you can say about every great player that's ever come into this league is that the fan base is drawn into their potential of being superstars.
Right.
Okay, I don't think there's enough of us that believe that Rui can turn into that.
Right.
You know, it's crazy to me because, you know, again, Kobe Bryant had to prove to be Kobe. Okay. You know, Kevin Garnett had to prove to be Kevin Garnett.
Mm-hmm.
And see, I'm naming a bunch of high school guys, a bunch of guys who came into league fresh, didn't even have 3-4 years of college even, right?
Yeah, that's true. I think you should use two comparisons.
Well,
Would be who he's always been linked to. So you have Kawhi, and then some people would sometimes link him to comparison of Giannis. Those guys was picked later in the draft, but they had to prove that they are who they are now.
well, I was making a point. So
Okay, my fault.
nah, the point I was making is that these guys you didn't know what they could do.
Right, that's true.
We saw Rui play at Gonzaga. So there was basketball scouts out there that said, hey, you know, we know what we're getting. With the likes of high school basketball players like Kobe and Kevin Garnett, right? You didn't know what they could do. Fans had no idea what they could do.
Right.
All right, they came out there, yes, and they had to prove that they were actual superstars, right?
Right.
As the years went on, the fans started to demand more of that.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were like, wow, I see true potential in this kid.
Right.
You know, even, you know, of course, LeBron is a whole nother, that's a separate conversation because people already knew he was the chosen one coming out of high school. That, you know, I'm not going to bring him in it, you know, but I'm going to keep this, you know, at the point that fans over the years had to buy into the belief that these players were going to become something. Now,
right.
I get it. Most people are watching this and they're saying, well, you know, you can't call Rui Kobe and you can't call Rui KG. You're right. I'm not saying that he's those guys. But what I am saying is those guys had an opportunity to showcase their skills where you as the fan was buying into the belief that they could be more one day.
That's true.
Because Kobe, as a rookie, was not averaging even what Rui averaged as a rookie. Do you understand that? Kobe, as a rookie, averaged like 8 points per game. And I got to go and look and see how much KG averaged. But the point I'm making is these guys literally they didn't come in averaging crazy numbers, man.
No. They basically were coming in based off of potential. You didn't know what you were getting. You can even take T-Mac. T-Mac was the same way when he came to the league. I mean, he was playing behind Vince Carter. It really took him going to Orlando when you actually saw what he could bring to the league. So when we talk about Rui, him playing out of Gonzaga, a lot of people didn't even know too much about him when he was drafted. You would not remember that. We were told, oh man, the Wizards made a bad pick here. Who in the world is this guy? I can't even pronounce his last name.
Right.
When you started seeing him play, you started seeing the potential. The problem is that the organization is not allowing him to develop into the star player that we think. that does is that leads fans to say, okay, well, you know what? If he doesn't show and prove this year, then we should just package him along with somebody else.
Come
And
on, man.
that's what you're getting. And
Come on.
it goes the same way with Deni. So since I brought Denny's name up, because I already told you what I felt, how do you feel about Deni?
So with Deni, he has a lot more work than say Rui. He has a lot
Okay.
more to prove. But my thing is I think that Deni's ceiling is just as high as Rui's ceiling. Like I don't think that Deni is the next. Like I don't think Deni's Luka. But my thing is, I believe that Deni, if put in the right situation, could be a a similar version as Luka, but not Luka. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like giving circumstances, given the fact that he's not playing behind a guy who commands the ball almost every possession in Bradley Beal, right? Given the fact that he's a guy that can dribble, he has the skill set of a guard. He gets rebounds. He can play defense. He slides his feet. Some people say that he's slow. Some people say that there's other facets of his game that he doesn't have. My question to those people is, how do you know? We don't even really get to see the full repertoire. We don't get to see everything. So how do you know what Deni can bring? The only thing that Scott Brooks ever asked of Deni was to be a spot-up shooter, or, hey, when you get the rebound, make sure that you give the ball up to, the point guard or the shooting guard. Like, we haven't been able to see what Deni can give us. We haven't seen the full package. You know how people say that person got a bag? You know how people say that player has a bag? Well, unfortunately for Deni, he hasn't been able to pull his bag out yet. And we don't know what he has in his bag because he's limited.
Yeah. Yeah, he has a short leash. And he's another one. If everybody keeps saying, well, you know what, if it doesn't work out, go ahead and package him and send him away. The problem is that how do you know what you have? Let me just say this and then we probably can go into another topic. There's a reason why Ben Wallace and Chris Webber, and these were guys that was never drafted by us. But there's a reason why those guys are Hall of Famers right now. Because in their situations, those teams allowed them to develop into the type of players that they knew that it could be. These were players that was once in Washington, and we had a short leash on these guys. We definitely had one on Chris Webber because of his off-court activities. I know that's what people's going to talk about. But then when he went to Sacramento the very next season, he became a 20-10 guy. Yeah. You look at Ben Wallace, and Ben Wallace was winning Defensive Players of the League when he was playing for the Pistons. And this guy's now Hall of Fame. I mean, come on. This guy was undrafted, and he was a bullet / wizard, and we gave up on him. So my point is, we're going to mess around and possibly do the same thing with Deni and Rui Hachimura if we continue to put them on a short leash and say, you know what, they're not doing this, they're not doing that. Well, let's just go ahead and package them away.
Well, let me ask you this. Why? Why is that being said? Why is that being talked about?
I have no idea. Well,
oh, you know. Why?
Do we really? Well, because we're catering to a guy who we're trying to tell him that he should sign a long-term deal. But here's the thing, man. When you look at a team like Houston told John Wall they were going in a different direction. They told Eric Gordon they're going in a different direction. I believe that they told DeMarcus Cousins that they were going in a different direction, which is why he left first. So they're going to develop those guys. Do you think Houston is going to sit there and not do something with Jalen Green and not do something with Kevin Porter Jr. after they just acquired? You think they're not going to do that? They got another guy that they drafted this year. Do you think they're going to allow the veterans to stand in the way of developing those players? No. KD and Russell Westbrook, when they was there in OKC, of course they were going to be the players that they were, but again, they were allowed to develop into those type of players.
Exactly. So they got the opportunities.
They had the opportunities.
But so what I am going to see
in those teams, they picked the project. They said, look, this is what we're going to do. We're going to develop these young guys, and that's that. The
Right.
problem with Washington is we want to try to do two things at the same time, and it just can't work. Unless you're the San Antonio Spurs, you can't sit there and say you're trying to win right now, and then at the same time you're trying to develop the young guys. Or better yet, let me just say it this way: it's unfair to put so much responsibilities on Deni and Rui Hachimura and say, hey, if you guys don't turn into this, we're just going to package you along with somebody else. That's unfair. Because what's going to
Absolutely.
happen is when they get packaged somewhere else, like the San Antonio, we're going to see what those guys have. And guess what? The fans who said that they wanted them gone are going to sit and say, well, damn, why the hell did we move on fast? Because the ownership was sitting there listening to your stupid ass.
Right. Right. So, hey, the fact that we drafted these guys where we drafted them, top 10 picks, who cares? It's out the window, And my thing is we didn't get to this point for it all to, vanish away. And
Right.
we don't ever get to see the true potential of both of these guys, Rui and Deni. So,
Right.
and look, my expectation for both, just to kind of end this portion of this, is that my expectation is I want to see Rui more involved. Of course, we want to see Rui more aggressive, but
Mm-hmm.
I want to see the fans demand more out of Rui. Like
Right.
I want to see us, come to that conclusion that we believe that Rui can be more than what he is. Because
Exactly.
I'm almost certain that Rui will respond accordingly if fans really give him the attention that he deserves. Because right now he's not getting it, and he see that he's not getting it, and he's not going to do any more than what the organization is asking him to do if he knows that we're not demanding more out of him.
Exactly.
And
I basically look at it this way. I ain't mean to cut you off.
no, you're good.
Keep the same energy for Rui Hachimura as you have for Bradley Beal. For
Right.
all of you people out here who are Bill apologists, say, "Oh, well, we believe that Bradley Beal can be an MVP, or we believe that Bradley Beal can be this and he can be that." He's just, for you guys who also were pissed off because he was ranked 89 in 2K. If you're gonna have that energy for him, you need to have that
Absolutely.
same energy for Rui Hachimura. Don't sit there and say, "Oh, well, we don't see that in him," because if you saw that in Bradley Beal, how can you
How do you
not see
not
that
see
in
it in
Rui?
Rui? Bill
Keep
averaged
that same energy.
Bill averaged 13 points per game his rookie year. Rui averaged 13 points per game his rookie year. Bill's average didn't start climbing until after his second year. Rui's average is climbing, hopefully, this season. Now that now that he has a little bit more under him, more experience under him, and there's a development process, of course, there for the likes of Rui for him to get to this point. But again, you don't put all this work in for us to just say, okay, it's time for us to move on past these guys, because we have a history, like you said, of doing that to young prospect and young stars. And
Absolutely.
as far as Deni goes, the same thing. I think for Deni, I think what I'm more so expecting to see this season is for him to really get involved more. When I say get involved, I mean, like, I want to see him, scrappy.
Right.
He's a very underrated defender.
Right.
He's a very underrated passer. He's a very underrated ball handler. Go into the bag, reach deep into that bag, and show Wizards fans like myself who believed in you from day one that you can be way more than just a spot up shooter. And
Right.
I think we'll be fine if we get those two guys on the same page as far as development and making this team better.
I agree.
Okay. So we're gonna touch on my dude next. Let's go ahead and go over to the chat rooms. Let's see what some regular NBA news is talking about these days. Let's pull up the chat room here. So, all right. So what we have here, there was something that stuck out, I think, to you and I, and it was this topic here, right?
Right.
So LeBron stated, "Why do so many ball players work on stuff they are never going to use in the game?" All right. Let's just kind of scroll down and let's just see what some people are talking about. So based off of this statement, some of the replies, he should ask Dirk why he and Holger did a billion things without a basketball lead and see if it worked. I love you, LeBron, but this ain't it. You can develop all kinds of physical and mental tools that will help you in basketball that aren't side P&Rs. This ain't it, Chief. There's a Ben Simmons shooting in practice joke to be made here.
That's true.
So, what's your take on it, on this statement?
He's absolutely right, man. I mean, we were talking about that just recently, about players that are practicing things that is not going to be implemented in the game. Ben Simmons is one. We've seen for the past couple of years when Ben Simmons is practicing on shooting his jumper, and in this past season, you didn't see it. His free throw percentage actually went down. Um, who's another player that I could use? I can even go back to Shaquille O'Neal. I mean, how often did he used to work on his free throws, and he never ever was reliable when it come down to shooting free throws.
Yeah.
So it is a very good point when you're talking about players who are adding stuff to their game that they're never going to use.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I, I know this is going to ruffle feathers, but Bradley Beal practicing on that long three,
Mm-hmm.
that was something that was never a concern of his, but all of a sudden he decides to do it. And I thought it was kind of weird when he says, well, I'm not trying to be logo Damian Lillard.
Mm-hmm.
Then what are you doing? Then if you're not trying to be logo Damian Lillard, then why are you practicing on a long three? I mean, I just don't get it. So my thing is, the things that you should be practicing on are the simple things. But if you're adding something that you really don't need to be adding to your game, it just doesn't make any sense. Like Dwight Howard, when you brought that up, a couple of years ago when he played for the Wizards, he was practicing shooting threes. And there were a few times we saw him out there shoot the three, and he would either airball it or he'd miss it big time. Why are you shooting threes?
Right.
And let me ask you this, since we're talking about this, do you think the style of play that the Golden State Warriors played when KD was on the team is the reason why everybody in the league say, you know what, we need to have all five guys on the court shooting threes, even the center?
I don't. You saying, do I believe that the Warriors and KD is the reason for that?
Well, with the KD Warriors,
Yeah.
because if you think about it, that spread offense when they had all five guys out there shooting threes,
Mm-hmm.
if you notice, you started seeing a lot of centers in the league start to shoot threes. Well, Cat Wing, I used to call it dude Cat Wing, but we saw Karl Anthony Towns come in the
Yeah.
league. He started shooting threes. He's a 7-footer. You
Yeah.
see Joel Embiid, he steps out there and shoot threes, who's a 7-footer as well. Now it is a very good skill to have if you're 7 feet and you can shoot the three, but then you can also go in the paint and score in the paint the way Joel Embiid does. But then you look at a guy like a Karl Anthony Towns, where some people will sit there and say he's kind of soft. He normally camps around the 3-point line a lot. Um, a guy like Miles Turner does that too. They don't really bang as much. So do you think that Golden State Warriors team kind of created this where you got everybody just want to shoot threes all of a sudden?
Well, the Warriors changed the game. They really did.
Right.
I mean, they changed the game a lot to the point where, having, a 2 guard, 3 guard going small lineup where, four out of five of the, players in the rotation can hit the three, on any given night. Like, they definitely changed the way the NBA is played today. But I must say that I just think that it's just pure talent. Like, you have players now coming into the league who's way more versatile. You have big men who can step out and hit that shot. And so you're not going to tell them that they shouldn't be taking the shot. I think you're going to tell them that, yeah, if you can hit that shot, go ahead and take it. Truth is that the Golden State Warriors was playing that style of basketball before KD got there. Harrison
Mm-hmm.
Barnes, Harrison Barnes was a great 3-point shooter when he was there. So, that's just their style of play. That's just who the Golden State Warriors were. That was that was their identity. So over the years, the NBA had to catch up to that. But think about before Golden State, when you had the likes of the Boston Celtics. When Ray Allen was on that squad, I think they were one of the top 3-point shooting teams in the league, and nobody even talks about that.
Mm-hmm.
They were up there, and then so I guess my point is like the NBA is forever evolving into this world of three ball, based off of the players that you do have on the team, of course. But I don't think that it was just KD and the Warriors. I think that it was just throughout history, you just had a slew of great NBA talent be able to do things that other NBA players can do.
Okay. So, what do you think about when I think Shaq said it when he was talking about the big man, like the way the big man plays now is nothing like how the way he played. So I think I read somewhere he said, well, if you guys play like this, then
Yeah,
you get more respect from me.
right.
Well, the role of the big man
That's
is
changed.
no it's changed. It's no longer the guy playing with his back to the basket,
Right.
getting his points in the paint. The big man now could step out, shoot a 15-footer, sometimes shoot, a 25-footer. And
Yeah.
then they could actually put the ball on the court because one thing we learned, and this kind of started with Anthony Davis, is, he had that big growth spurt when he was in high school.
Mm-hmm.
But if I remember correctly, they said Anthony Davis played point guard coming up in high school until he had that growth spurt. So you got a lot of guys who were in high school, probably played guard, and then they had this growth spurt. So when they come into the league, they can handle the basketball. Where used to be in the past, just even I would say 15 years ago, if a big man got a rebound, he was handing it off to the point guard. But we're now seeing big men actually running on the break.
Yeah.
And they're actually scoring and finishing at the basket very well.
Yeah.
So it is a good skill set to have. Um, but to kind of go back to what LeBron's saying, I mean, I definitely understand what he means. When he said, hey, guys working on different parts of the game that they're never going to use. I would say LeBron is kind of guilty of that himself, too.
Look at this comment. LeBron seeing Westbrook practice threes. Check that out.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I noticed that Westbrook has been practicing threes since he's been there. So, I
So
mean,
so the thing is I don't see, look, my take on it is LeBron's absolutely right. Just based off of everything you just said, just let me piggyback off that. We was just covering this 2-3 weeks ago when we were questioning why Bradley Beal was shooting deeper threes. You and I both said he's not going to be doing this in the game. Why is this so important? And then 2 weeks later, LeBron is asking the question, why do so many ball players work on stuff they are never going to use in the game? This is not a coincidence, folks. The stuff that, Kjose and I talk about, it's not just for, shits and giggles. This is real questions. Like this is real questions. Okay. Most of you guys probably watched it and said to yourself, oh, that question's irrelevant. That question don't mean anything. Why is Dcan and Kjose even asking why Bradley Beal's taking deeper threes? Well, if it's so irrelevant that we asked the question, then why did LeBron just say, why do so many ball players work on stuff they are never going to use in the game? Why?
he didn't say that.
We didn't say that.
He
LeBron
said that.
Correct. LeBron said that. So if what we're saying is so irrelevant and doesn't matter, then what LeBron is saying is irrelevant and doesn't matter, and he's a superstar of the league. So look, the bottom line is that it is a serious concern, it's a serious question. And I believe that LeBron posed the question because even LeBron knows that it's all PR. And you and I both said this in that episode of State of the Wizards when we said that we believe that Bradley Beal was only doing that for PR purposes. Because we know Bradley Beal has a bag. He can do anything. He's an offensively gifted basketball player. But truthfully, why was it important to videotape yourself shooting deeper threes? And you know, and I know he's not going to be doing that during the season.
Right. And maybe, you know what? Who's to say that when LeBron James asked this question, it didn't have anything to do with these pickup games that's been just going viral? And not just Bradley Beal, but just all these players playing in these pickup games, doing certain things that you know good well you're not going to see them do during a regular game. You
Right,
know,
right,
let's be for real. There was no defense being played.
right,
So,
right,
if you saw something from like Kelly Oubre, like if you see Kelly Oubre doing a 720 dunk, don't expect him to do that in a regular game.
right. No, it's like I said, man. It's all for PR. It's all to put their stuff out there. Hey, this is what I can do. I can still do this. I can still do that. But LeBron's looking at it like, man, y'all not gonna be doing this in the game.
Exactly.
I mean, okay, cool. You showing the world that you could do a 360 dunk, but you and I both know you're not gonna be doing that 360 dunk in the game.
Exactly.
Dwight Howard out here shooting threes. He got videotape, or he got recordings of him. You know, when he was a Wizard, he was actually. I remember this very vividly. He was recording himself and posting on IG that he was working on his outside shot. He was taking mid-range jump shots. He was taking three-point jump shots. You know, and I think you and I talked about this briefly too. I think at one time where we were like, did you watch Dwight Howard, out there shooting threes and stuff like that? I was like, it looked like he's improved on his jump shot. Dwight Howard never does that in the game. Never. The plays aren't even ran that way for him.
Nope.
There's no single play designed for Dwight Howard to be standing out there hitting the three or shooting the three. So
Nope.
so I mean, to me, it's just a waste of time. And I think it was a great question posed by LeBron because, like I said, you and I, we had just talked about this in a couple weeks ago in another episode of State of the Wizards. And
Yeah.
so with that said, uh, why do you think some folks think that LeBron is wrong here? Why do you think they're saying stuff like this ain't it, Chief? Like, why do you think that is?
I think it's a lot of things, man. I think some people are tired of LeBron James. One of the things I have noticed when it comes to LeBron is ever since LeBron James kind of been a little political, people who are pro him have become anti him.
Mm-hmm.
So even when it pertains to him talking just regular basketball, they have an issue with LeBron James. And
Mm-hmm.
it's more because of his political beliefs. You know how that is. Once you put out your political beliefs, and if it doesn't align with everybody else, then no matter what you say going forward, nobody's going to even really be feeling it. So with the person saying this ain't it, Chief, that guy could just have a personal issue with LeBron James just based off his political beliefs.
So it don't have
Um,
nothing to do with basketball.
it ain't got nothing to do with basketball. I've noticed that when it came down to LeBron, that it's even the same thing with Kyrie Irving. When Kyrie Irving was talking about, that he was thinking about other things outside of basketball, he was getting dragged through the mud because of that.
Right.
Because they were looking at it from a political standpoint. Like when he's talking about, the COVID thing last year, he
Yeah.
was getting dragged through the mud about that. And
Yeah.
then when he's talking about this year, hey, you got black people out here dying, this, that, and the third. People didn't like that. They were calling him soft. They were just sitting there saying these things about him.
Mm-hmm.
So that's exactly what I think it is with LeBron James. There's some things that LeBron says that I may not agree with, and there's some things that he say that I do agree with, and I don't think he was far off base with this, and a lot of other things. But people who have a problem with him is because of his political belief. Because he told, I know some, we probably got some fans on here who are former 45 fans but he's anti-45.
Mm-hmm.
You already know how that is. If you put out that you're anti-45 and you're talking to somebody who is pro-45, they want to put you in the cancel culture.
Mm.
So I think that's what's going on right now is that people are trying to cancel out LeBron James, and it ain't got not a damn thing to do with what he does on the court. It's more so what he's doing off the court.
Good point. Great point. And I think the last thing I'm going to say, and then we'll wrap this episode up, is I think that you're right. There's a lot of folks out there that just have a problem with LeBron, from a political standpoint. And yes, it doesn't have anything to do with basketball. I think that the only thing that, these folks really want out of LeBron at the end of the day is just for him to continue to make statements where they can say, okay, that's why I have a problem with LeBron. But LeBron doesn't catch on to that. It's almost like sometimes I think he feeds the beast by making unpopular statements or just making statements in general. I've been one of those people in the past where I've said, oh, look at this guy bringing this up. This has, there's no reason, to even talk about this. But as years gone on, I've definitely come to the conclusion that, you know what, it is because, number one, he takes stands and he speaks up for the athletes when athletes don't want to speak up.
Right.
So some of the things that he talks about, whether it's, basketball related, whether it's in school, whether it's politics, Obama, Hillary Clinton, it don't matter what he's talking about. I think that, fans, they're going to criticize him regardless because he chooses to be the guy that speaks up, and all of the other guys in the NBA, they choose not to. But you know how it is, man. I mean, you're the face of the league, and he's been the face for a long time.
Yeah, I do. I mean,
yeah,
I agree. One thing when I even cut you, one thing because you made me think of something when you was talking about it. So to kind of stay on LeBron, I'm gonna bring Michael Jordan up in this.
Mm-hmm.
You and I have talked to people who had an issue with Michael Jordan because they said, well, he didn't speak up enough.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Jordan never really, picked a side of what, he was concerned about. So, of course, when he came out with his last dance, he spoke on that. He said, hey, I was a basketball player. That's what I focused on. That's what I did.
Right.
Since he's been retired, you've seen him, he donated money to the African American Museum down at the Smithsonian. He had also, didn't he donate some money to an HBCU recently, I believe?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He did that as well. So you're seeing Michael Jordan do things that he was getting dragged for not doing like 30 years ago.
During his NBA career.
During his NBA career. And it's gone silent. Nobody's really saying anything about it, that he's doing these things.
Right.
These are the things you wanted him to do when he was playing, and you're not saying anything.
Right.
Now we bring it on to LeBron James. LeBron James has been speaking. He's been vocal. The Black Lives Matter movement, he was doing those things. What happened, we started noticing people who were pro him, and we know one guy in particular who's a big time LeBron fan. He had an issue with LeBron James' political views. Even this past season, we've heard him talk more Westbrook than anything and barely spoke about LeBron James on anything.
All right, yeah.
Because he had a problem with LeBron.
Yeah, we can put that to the wayside. I wanted to touch on what you just said though.
Okay.
The thing is, man, so to your point, LeBron chooses to talk about things. Like LeBron chooses, he raises his hand. Michael Jordan didn't raise his hand. Michael Jordan was the person that said, hey, look, I'm not raising my hand for activism. That's not who I am. I'm a basketball player. All right. So the thing is that when those people who are criticizing Michael Jordan, they need to understand that first. Understand that the person who doesn't raise their hand, they're not raising their hand for a reason. Because they choose, that's what they're choosing to do. They're choosing not to be an activist. And I can't begrudge him for choosing that. Why? Because at the end of the day, during the time that a lot of stuff was happening in the early 90s, He was at the pinnacle of his career. He was at the top. He was Michael Jordan as the basketball player. He wasn't Martin Luther King. He wasn't Jesse Jackson. He wasn't Al Sharpton. Okay, you have guys in place to do those things because that's what they did. Michael Jordan's career was not that. Now, for you people out there that saying, no, that's an excuse. No, it's not. Because I wouldn't tell somebody at Microsoft to go and flip burgers. Or I wouldn't tell somebody who's flipping burgers to go build me a computer at Microsoft. People are doing what they do in their careers for a reason, because that's what they are. That's what they love to do. That's what they sought out to do. Okay. At the end of the day, if LeBron sought out to be an activist as a basketball player, that's what he sought out to do. And let's be for real. What we see in social media today is not what you saw in the 90s. It's two different worlds.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? If social media was back in the 90s like it is today, then maybe you would have saw Michael Jordan seeking to be an activist, because it would have been easier for Michael Jordan to control his narrative too. But see, people don't think about that. You can control your narrative a hell of a whole lot more with the social media era than you could ever do in the 90s or the 80s. Okay? And so what I mean by that is, hey, I'm about to go out there and, start handing out cookies. Put me on camera that I'm going out there to hand out cookies at 7:00 tonight. Okay? You got the camera out there showing me handing out cookies, right? Oh, look at Dcan out there handing out cookies. Man, he's a great athlete doing that, just handing out cookies to people. It's easier for me to control my narrative. Whereas in the 90s, hey, bring the camera with you and just take a picture of me handing out cookies. We'll send this over to a publishing or send this over to a journalist so they can write about me handing out cookies. That's the difference. And then it's up to that journalist or that publication or the people who's reporting on it to put that news out. But do you think people cared more about Michael Jordan handing out cookies back in the 90s like LeBron handing out cookies today?
Nope.
Hell no. They wouldn't care. They don't care. They didn't care back in the 90s. So I don't know why people acting like, it was different, because it wasn't. People did not care about social activism like that back in the 90s like they do today. And that's just
I think a lot of people say, well, back then you didn't have a lot of it going on. You didn't have, police officers killing black folks at a high rate.
That ain't true. That ain't true.
We know that's not true. But, but they would say, well, that wasn't going on back then.
But we didn't see it. We didn't see it.
So technology wasn't available. So you think about social media nowadays, you can't hide from social media. But back then, oh, yeah, you was able to hide from it. But they'll say, well, wait a minute. The very first person that was getting abused by black, being police officers was Rodney King. Why did Michael Jordan speak on that? Again, he said it in The Last Dance. That was not his job. That's not what he was sought out to do. His job was to play basketball. What he's doing now, you've seen him doing his activism work and nobody say anything. So I look at it this way. It doesn't matter if the person is actually on the forefront being an activist or if they're not being one at the same time. They're going to get bashed either way. So Mike got bashed for not speaking up, and LeBron is getting bashed for speaking up.
And you know what? At the end of the day, it's never too late. The man is still alive. And there's still unjust situations going on. So it's never too late. Y'all, those same people who criticized him in the 90s for not speaking out and not doing anything are the same people who are not giving Michael Jordan his flowers right now for donating to an HBCU. You see how that worked? Y'all want to criticize, but y'all don't want to show love. So when he wasn't speaking out on it in the 90s, oh, you probably had a point. Okay. But what's your point now that he's actually speaking out on these issues and actually doing something about these issues, and he's putting his money to these causes? What do you guys have to say now about that? See, you can't have it both ways. You want both sides of the argument, but you can't, because the man's still living and he's still doing his work. He's still doing what he has to do for the Black community. Y'all just want to criticize the man, period, because you're not him. That's the bottom line.
Well, yeah, that's true.
You ain't got his money. That's the bottom line. You not Michael Jordan. That's your real problem.
I guess I'll be mad too if I ain't have his damn money. I don't have his money, but I ain't mad at him.
Hey, but there are some people that's mad at him though, man.
Yeah, well, you know what I mean? There's a lot of folks out there that's mad at LeBron. Why they mad at him? Because they ain't got his money either.
I mean,
but at the end of the day, that's the reason why LeBron James is getting hated on with his statements, is because of his political views. It has nothing to do with basketball.
Yeah, and I mean, look, at the end of the day, people are gonna feel the way they do about him. Look, I ain't gonna lie. I ain't gonna sit up here and lie. Yes, I have my issues with LeBron. I'm not gonna go too much into it. It's not just about basketball, obviously, with LeBron. There's other things that's more important to LeBron that I do give LeBron credit for. I've never criticized LeBron from a social activism standpoint. Okay. Right. I've only criticized LeBron from a PR, basketball, seems like it's more about the drama for him. That's what I criticize LeBron for. But I've never criticized LeBron for his social activism. That's something he chooses to do, to let him do it, period. It is what it is. I mean, to your point, we don't make what they make. We never gonna see that type of money. You gotta be truly blessed and physically gifted to be at that level. And my thing is LeBron doesn't have to do the things that he does, but he chooses to do it.
Right. Yeah, I'm not mad at him. You gotta do what you do. I'm not mad at him until I see what that house party movie looks like. Now, if that looks like some trash, what I think it is,
that's right. I forgot.
And I will be criticizing them then.
I forgot he was remaking that. Yeah, I forgot about that. So
the
that the house party remake, right?
Yeah. So he may get criticized by me because of that. Because I depending on who the hell is playing the role of kid and play.
Well, you already know they're gonna make cameos. That's gonna be corny in itself.
Oh Lord.
Exactly. Exactly. You already know they're gonna make cameos.
No, man.
How you gonna make a house party and not, have them in it? They're probably gonna be pulling up in the taxi cab or something, telling the new cast to get in.
LeBron James pretending to be an Uber driver? Oh, that'll be the damn day.
Right. So, but anyway, man, that concludes this episode of State of the Wizards. Again, I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Episode 6, it was a success. Kjose, Dcan, follow me at Wiz Takes, again on Twitter. I'm also on Instagram. Follow State of the Wizards on Instagram as well. We finally got that Instagram page up. We're gonna put more content on there, and we're gonna basically put some short versions of this episode and future episodes on the Instagram, so you guys can check that out. And did you have anything to leave off on, Kjose?
Hell yeah, definitely just continue watching the content. We definitely appreciate you guys who are watching it, who are following us. For you other guys out there to do podcasts, hopefully we'll be able to do a cross-platform with some of you guys.
Absolutely.
You know who you guys are. Definitely, we wouldn't be able to do any of this without you guys. So I'm very grateful that we're getting followers, and continue to watch our content and follow us.
For sure. Catch you guys on the next episode. You guys have a good night. Peace.